Hello everyone, welcome to week 3 of Christmas tags. This week we are featuring the beautiful Christmas Snowflake Mandalas. Alright, let's go through some of the materials I'll be using to create these tags. We are using the Christmas Snowflake Mandalas, and I think this is my favorite tag this year. You can tell that it's been loved quite a bit already. I am using Distress Watercolor cardstock. And I did go ahead and I did cut these tags using my Cricut. Now you can tell that you'll be able to cut 3 tags out of one sheet. And these are quite large. These are number 8 tags. So if you don't have a Cricut, you can use definitely a number 8 tag. And if not, you can cut these. These measure 6 1/4 by 3 1/4. They are large, but so is this mandala. And I really want to feature it on these tags. I am going to use Distress Oxide inks in the blues and reds. I am going to do a smushing technique at the back of this tag, and then we're going to build on and add our mandala and of course a little bit of red to make it festive. So let me clear off my desk right here and let's get started. Okay, so let's get started. I have lots to share with you today on these tags. So we're going to start here with some ink smushing, and I'm using speckled egg, weathered wood, and pumice stone. And I kind of went heavy on the weathered wood right here, and I found that it was really gray. So I definitely went back with speckled egg and I added a few coats. And in between each layer, I did dry my ink just a tiny little bit. I think I did this about 3 or 4 times, and this is about the time where I realized that the back of the tag is going to get really messy, but that's okay. We'll deal with it. Stick around. I'll show you how I fix that. So you can see here that they're looking good, but they're a little bit gray. So I'm going to dry them up, and then I'm going to go back individually with the colors. So with the pumice stone, and then again heavy on the speckled egg, and I think that they turned out really, really good. So I'm going to add here some vintage photo, and I'm doing just some distressing. And if you're not familiar with Distress Oxide inks, they seem to go on really, really dark, and then they dry back and they look really, really good. So here I'm doing some splatters, of course, and you'll see at the end that they really dry back and you don't really see them. You do, but not the way that they're splattering right here. You're probably thinking, oh wow, that's really dark. But once everything dries back, it looks really good. So you've got this really model look at the back, and that's what I was looking for. So basically my tags are vintage, and they are also a little bit of glam. So we're going to put in this awesome mandala right here, and I'm going to use the large one. I am going to stamp that with vintage photo. I am using my Misty here because we're going to leave that in the door for pretty much the entire project. So I'm going back and forth, and I did this 3 times. Like, I really want to have a lot of ink, and you'll see why in a moment. So I did do that 3 times. I just want to show you that looks really, really good. But we are going to saturate this with water. So lots of water here. And you're probably thinking, oh boy, what's going on here? But we're going to let it dry. We're going to set it aside. And this is what it looks like when it's drying. You're probably thinking, wow, that's a hot mess. And it is, but trust me, it will look awesome. This one here is really, really wet. I'm going to just kind of get a little bit of the water off from the edges. And see, this one here, I didn't add as much water, but let's let them dry and look at that. The magic of video, right? When they dry back, they look completely different. So I'm going to bring in my 25 here for December 25, and I'm going to distress these as well. So I'm starting here with candy apple cardstock, believe it or not, and I'm adding, what is this color right here? Fired brick. which I thought was going to be much darker, but it wasn't. So I was a little surprised by that. So I thought, okay, well, let's bring in a little bit of vintage photo. We're going to mix that up right here. And I was just trying to get them to be definitely darker. And again, we're going for that vintage look, but the vintage look with the blues and the reds. And you'll see that by adding this vintage photo, it's getting there. And again, let it dry. When you see it right now, it looks again like a big hot mess, but you just have to let it dry. I'm adding here some candied apple because I wanted that red to pop through. So hopefully you can see that on the camera, and you see that there's a little bit more red. So I did do this a few times, and I did dry in between. And you'll see that there's a lot of drying time, and you have to jump between the numbers and the tags. Here I'm adding even more vintage photo because, like I said, it does dry back, and I did want it to be a little bit more predominant. All right, so let's talk about these letters here, these numbers, I should say. I did use the classic alphabet, and I will link that down below. The reason why I did that is I wanted to share the Cricut design space file, and if I added a specific font, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So in the design space file, if you so happen to use it, there is a 25 in there, but it's just the regular Cricut font. It's not as pretty. So if you want to have it look the way it is right here, this is the classic alphabet. So this is something that I've had in my stash for, I kid you not, 20 years. It is clear shimmer embossing powder, and it is my new obsession. It is so pretty, and I thought it was perfect for these tags, I should say. So I'm going to put a generous amount on it, right on all of the numbers and the tag toppers, and I'm just kind of like dipping them into the powder, and I'm using my tweezers here. But look at that. Isn't that cool? So it is a clear embossing powder, but there's shimmer in it. I just thought it was really cool. So of course I wanted to use it with these Christmas tags. So now that these are nice and dry, we're going to go back to the MISTI. We're going to put them back exactly in the same position, and we are going to stamp with espresso ink, and that is going to reveal the mandala. I've done this in a previous video. It was cards that I did, and I called it like a vintage type stamping, and it truly does look vintage because it's kind of brown and the blues, and I don't know, I think that it looks pretty cool. So this is what it looks like without the glitter, and let me show you what it looks like when you add this embossing powder. I'm telling you, this is my new obsession. I don't know why it's been sleeping in my drawer for 20 years, but here it is. So you might see this again and again, especially for Christmas cards or tags. So I'm going to add it right here on the top, and we are going to heat emboss this, and you're going to see the difference. Now, if you don't have this in your stash, you could use just clear embossing. It is going to do what you see here, which is making the mandala really stand out, but it's the glitter inside that really gets to me. I just think it's so pretty. So these are all done. They're all ready to go. And I have 3 here. And while I was filming the video, I was trying to do a little bit of an assembly line. And you'll see that for tag number 1, I had to redo it. And I'll explain that in a minute. So I knew I wanted to use these new stamp set. And this is a special going on right now. And I don't know about you, but I'm always looking for really quick and easy to and from stamp sets, and we have a ton of them right now. So I picked my favorite 3 that I felt matched these tags. So for tag number 1, I'm going to stamp the smaller mandala one more time, and then I'm going to add this really pretty one with gold embossing powder. I think that's my favorite tag. This one here, I'm going to use this small die and this one too. So they all match the all-purpose tag set, and I'll link that down below as well. So if you want to do quick and easy little tags, these are perfect. Like, they're cute and sweet, and I just really liked them, and I thought that it really dressed up this larger tag. So I did go ahead for the mandala and I stamped it, or I embossed it in gold and in espresso, and you'll see in a minute. I wasn't sure which color I wanted. So I'm going to do, again, some ink smushing, and I'm doing the vintage photo and the antique linen, and I just want to have a different color at the top. I'm going to add a little bit of water, and you can see that I've got a little bit more of the antique linen right here because I don't want them to be too dark. So this one is the gold one, and I'm just going to town. I got pretty messy doing these tags, but you know what? I was having a lot of fun. So I'm adding my toppers, if you want, or my embellishments here in the vintage photo and the antique linen. I'm going to add a little bit of distressing on the edges, and we're going to start building our tags. So for the tag number 1, I've got my little mandala right here. This is the gold, and I want to add my 25. I like the way that looks, and I thought, okay, well, let's try the espresso one. So let's just move this out of the way. And it's like, yeah, nope, gold. Definitely gold for the win on this tag here. And then I've got these ones here. And of course, I forgot to do my distressing and my embossing. I will do that a little later. So for tag number 1 here, you can see that the one that I have in my hand right now is embossed with that clear shimmer embossing powder. You may not be able to see it, but it is. So I had to restamp that because when you want to stamp the sentiment, if you stamp over embossing, it's not going to work. Ask me how I know that. Anyways, so see this one here? It's got that shimmery, it's got the little glitter and everything. So if you try and emboss a sentiment on top of that, it's not a smooth surface, and it's just not going to work. So we are going to stamp the sentiment first, and then we're going to go back and we are going to pretty up the mandala with the clear embossing powder. So I'm just going to stamp it down. And remember, I said that I wanted to do that in gold. So we're going to do the gold right here, and you can see that those little lines don't go all the way down the tag, and I really wanted that to go at the bottom. So I'm going to use my embossing pen, and I'm just going to accentuate, or extend I should say, the lines. So I'm just going to add, there's 3 little lines. I'm just going to add the line just so that it continues down across the tag. We're going to add a little bit more embossing powder. And you see, now it's running clearly across the tag at the bottom, and that's the look I was going for. All right, so let's emboss this. Now the secret to this is that you are going to double emboss, right? So we don't want to overheat at this point, but I think it looks so good. It's very subtle, but it's there, and it's gold. So let's add our little tag, or big tag, I should say, back into the MISTI, and we are going to emboss it with the clear glitter embossing powder. And I'm just going to add my Vorosmarty right here. And because I've got my sentiment and it's already done, it works this way. It doesn't work the other way. So if you are doing these tags, definitely follow these steps. Start with embossing your sentiment and then go back and emboss the mandala. And this is what it looks like when they are both done. And I think that looks really good. All right, so it's time to assemble our tags. So tag number 1, I'm going to add this circle right here. I'm going to drop it just a tiny bit so that goal matches the goal sentiment. And you're definitely going to need something like a block, like I have my large block here. You're going to need to weigh things down because we are working with watercolor cardstock. Everything has been embossed. There's glitter everywhere. You're going to need to press things down and hold them down so that they stay in place, especially the 25, because I decided I was going to overlap that just a tiny little bit. So that's why you've got 2 blocks. One is holding down the 2 and the other one is holding down the circle. Okay, so for my ribbon and my twine, I did some stash diving, of course. This jute is from Michaels, and we're going to add a couple of jingle bells. Why not? Just to be a little festive, right? So you know me and bows, I always try and find a way to make them easy because nobody likes to make bows, or maybe it's just me. So I just went around my fingers a few times and I'm going to cut that off. If you've watched the video from week number 1, I do this same thing, I believe, with a ruler. So I thought, well, if I can do it with a ruler, I can do it with my fingers. I'm just going to tie that together really nice and tight. And I find that when you have a few loops, it just looks really good. So I think I went around 3 or 4 times, and you've got this really nice jute bow at the top of your tag. Now for this one here, I'm going to thread that through my little jingle bells here. And you know what? I'm thinking Janice is onto something because a crochet hook would really work really well right here, but I don't have one. So I am going to add here a couple of staples. I'm like, why not, right? So we're going to staple those letters in because this is a mixed media tag, so there's a few things. And to remedy the back side, I did cut another tag just in regular cardstock. I stamped the to and from, and we're going to glue that together. And of course, this is when I run out of glue, right? Right in the middle of a project, but it's okay. I have another bottle somewhere on my desk. So we are going to add those 2 tags together, and we are going to make sure that everything is nice and straight. And then again, we are going to weigh it down to make sure that everything sticks together. So this is tag number 2. I've gone ahead and I've stamped the to and from, which is going to go right here on the back side. I've got my smaller tag that's going to go right here at the top. And I'm just playing between like jute and twine and organza ribbon, I believe it's called. And I'm fussing with my bows because we all do that, right? We try and make them look perfect. And you know what? For this tag, they don't need to look perfect. Even if they're a little messy, I think that it goes with the look of these tags. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to finish tag number 3. And I just wanted to show you, like, don't forget, if you're going to add any staples to the front of your tag, do that before you sandwich them together, right? Because this back tag here is meant to hide all sins, and we're going to hide all of the mess that we did from the distressing on the tag in the front and then the little staples, and you're just going to cover that up, and I think that it looks really good. So that was a really good solution for that little crafty problem. So I'm going to add a couple of jingle bells here. And we're going to do that same thing that we did with the twine. We're going to do it with this organza ribbon. So here I'm only doing like 2 loops, but I'm trying to make them a little bit bigger. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to cut that tail off. And then I'm just pinching the center of it right here. And I'm just going to kind of fluff them up a tiny little bit. And I'm going to use that single piece that I have, and I'm actually placing that on my knee. No, I don't have a bow fairy sitting on my lap. I wish I did. but I don't. But see here, it's a little messy, but I think it looks good because the whole tag there's a lot going on here, right? I wasn't too thrilled on that little bow right there, but you know what? At the end, you'll see that I changed them up, and you can just do you. Like, whatever floats your boat, whatever you like, I think that they will turn out perfect every single time. And, of course, I did mess them up a little bit here, so, of course, a little bit of splatters to the rescue, and I think that completes the look perfectly, don't you? Okay, so let's do a little project recap. There was a lot going on with these tags, but I'm super happy on how they turned out. So you've got the background here that was done with the ink smushing. You have a lot of embossing done in gold, in clear shimmer. You've got the beautiful sentiment here. You've got these little jingle bells, twine, and the back here. As much as I tried to keep this clean, I managed to dirty it up, so I just did a little bit of splatters on the back, and I think that that fixes everything. This one here is equally cute. You've got the tiny tag, and I really like the sentiment on this one. And I've got a messy bow, and I think that these lend well to messy bows. And this here is just twine tucked in underneath the little jingle. And you've got this gorgeous 25 with the staples. Again, you've got the clear embossing with shimmer. If you don't have any of this, you can definitely look at just doing it in the clear. I find that it looks really, really neat. And lastly, this one here as well. So we did some ink distressing on this tag, and then the ink distressing on the other one. We did some embossing here, and again that beautiful 25, and of course I had to do a little bit of distressing on the back side, but I really like the way these turned out. I hope you like them too. So you know what? We have a special guest this week. Chelsey's gonna wow you with her tags, I am sure. So head on over to her channel, and I'll see you next week. Have yourself a fantastic day. Bye for now.